All right, Steve. Steve has a long question, and I love it that he started off with long question. Here it is. I love those. Here it goes. Congress just passed and Obama just signed the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA. This act gives legal authority to the president to kidnap and perpetually imprison persons, including U.S. citizens, without the benefit of due process. As the next Texas representative from District 21, what action will you take regarding the NDAA? For example, sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to nullify, revise, or let stand. I am completely opposed to the NDAA. I believe it is a constitutional overstretch. I believe it is a violation of the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution. And I believe that actions ought to be taken, much like what was attempted with the TSA, to criminalize any activity in enforcement of the NDAA inside of Texas. You know, the question was about the bill to nullify or revise. I'm not about, at this point, it's not about nullification for me. I believe that David Simpson's route with the TSA bill is something that needs to be done not just with the NDAA, but needs to be done all throughout Texas on a whole host of issues relating to the federal government. And it's quite simple. If a government agent, a federal government agent, comes inside the borders of Texas and acts in violation of the United States Constitution or the Texas Constitution or the laws of Texas, then I believe they should be criminally prosecuted. So that's how I would deal with the NDAA, not just with a bill to nullify it or some meaningless resolution, as the previous two sessions have been very apt to put out there, but literally with a bill that would criminalize the enforcement of the NDAA. Okay, so let's move on. Steve, with question 2. I thought that, did we not put the disclaimer that it was limit 1 per customer? Okay. Question 2, interstate compacts. Steve wants to know whether or not, what my position is on interstate compacts, especially as the subjects of Obamacare and EPA are concerned. Interstate compacts, what they do, for those of you out there who may be somewhat familiar with them, what they do is they basically retain the state's autonomy, the state's sovereignty from federal interference. And of course, Steve cited Obamacare and EPA environmental meddling. And really, interstate compacts can be used for a lot of things. I mean, there's a case that could be made that interstate compacts could be used to get the Keystone Pipeline pumped down here to Southeast Texas, aside from what Obama was trying to do to kill it. So interstate compacts are an especially powerful tool. And I believe that in any instance where they can be used, they should. Because the issue here is not so much the federal interference, although that is the largest issue, but the issue here is how Texas is going to retain its sovereignty under Article 1, Section 1. And so any tools, any arrows in the quiver that can be used to defend our sovereignty, we have to use, and that includes interstate compacts. Okay. And I'm going to get back. Steve hit me with a bunch of questions, but I want to get to Edward, who issued this question. He wants to know my personal opinion on the morality or immorality of the income tax on wages. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not believe in an income tax. You know, Texas has a constitutional portion of our Constitution that forbids a state income tax. And I believe that when you tax a man's wages, when you tax their income, then you are basically eating at their substance. Okay, if you go and you look at, from a biblical perspective, and you look at tithing, money had to come to you and actually come to you before you gave your 10%. And when the government taxes wages, they take their part off the top and you never see that. So, I do believe that taxing wages is immoral. Now, you say that it's mainly a federal issue, but I want to explain to you why it's a state issue. And it gets back to something about my opponent that I discovered going through his voting record. There was an attempt a couple sessions back to impose what I call a backdoor income tax, where they wanted to take your property tax and scale your property tax based on your income. Okay, so what that means is they were going to allow, if you earned a certain amount, they were going to, your property tax would go up and in essence subsidize the property tax from people who were low income. So not only would it require your property to be appraised at value, but it would also require you to file an income statement, which makes it an income tax. And so I am completely opposed to any attempts. Now, thank goodness that thing got shot down, not before my opponent voted for it, but there's going to be, and I say this because as we head into this budget crunch in the next session, there is going to be more and more and more emphasis placed on revenue sources, developing additional revenue sources for the state. Again, giving them a bigger pair of pants and taking them to the buffet.